to sing. If I had a chance on my coming back someday, I want to come back as a singer because I envy those singers. But tonight, I will have to sing a different tune. So, but I want to thank BJ for his wonderful introduction, and thank you for coming. What a grand evening. But not only is it the beginning of a revolution, but it's just the beginning of our rally. Come on. But when I look out and see so many people, I think of those reports early on in the campaign that we would win the post-debate polls because we had all those smart internet people that knew how to spam it, and there were only 2 dozen of you. But there's looks like there's a lot more. This is great. This is great. It's been a great year and a half for me personally. It's been a great year and a half for the cause of liberty. And I would have never predicted that we could have achieved what we have. And that is because you existed. I didn't know it. There were so many just looking for this message. And it delights me to no end. There's a couple of things that have really energized me. I know you give me credit for energizing you, but you've energized me. And one great thing has been the fact that the response from the young people has been fantastic. And of course, the other thing is that those who are not considered so young in nominal years, but young at heart, those who have been true believers have been hanging around. Those who are in the remnant, that number was much larger than I ever dreamed. But you know, one of the best vindications of the whole campaign has been the tremendous response our campaign and our message has been received by our military personnel. In case you ever tuned in to any of the debates, there were a few nights that if you assumed that the audience knew everything about what was going on in this country, you might have assumed that maybe nobody cared about what we were talking about. But lo and behold, they like to ridicule, ignore, and marginalize our views, especially on foreign policy. But it pleased me to no end to see when they added up in the first quarter of this year that our campaign was able to raise more money from active military personnel than all the rest put together. There's no reason to be discouraged. There's every reason to be concerned. There's every reason to have a sense of urgency because time is running out. We know that we have a certain length of time to turn the ship of state around. We have been introduced to something in this country historically different than any other nation ever had. A large respect and understanding of personal liberty. And it was written in our Constitution, but in the last 100 years there has been severe, persistent abuse of that liberty, and we have to change that. You know, one thing that when we're successful, I know an attitude in Washington that will have to change. And I may mention this on different speeches at different times. But there's something in Washington that is sort of pervasive that made me say one day that the two weakest arguments I could ever use on a House floor would be a moral argument and a constitutional argument. That is what we have to change. Get to the point where it isn't the lobbyists, the number of lobbyists and the special interest groups that persuade and tell the members of Congress how to vote, but get back to the basic morality of law and the basic fundamentals of our Constitution. like to say it, and I like to hear your response. And that is that over this past 18 months, I have found out, even though I knew it theoretically, I had not experienced it. And that is that freedom brings people together. I've read articles about our crowds, and they can go among the crowd and they can see different kinds of people with different philosophies, and all of a sudden, why do these people who seem to be different want to come together? Well, there's only one thing that can bring us together. That is respect for other people and respect for their liberty and our own liberty. I've never quite understood why it's assumed that we have the right to read literature as we choose. It's getting so that the government wants to monitor all the time, and they infringe on that. And they also, technically at least, respect freedom of choice in religion. But what happened to us as a nation to get to the point where the conventional wisdom is that you don't have the right to decide what goes into your own body, and that you have to ask the government what to do? So, defending liberty is something that we do. But one thing in order to defend liberty in a consistent way is you have to get the idea of liberty back in the single package. Because right now, after 100 years, what we have done is we have taken freedom and chopped it up into pieces. One group tokenly defends the marketplace and property. And then the other side tokenly defends personal liberty. Neither one do a very good job of either, but the whole thing is freedom means freedom to run your life as you choose and to keep the fruits of your labor. Now, if you're a humanitarian, you have to believe in liberty because it's the only system that provides the greatest abundance for the largest number of people. So, in a system of a society like that, and in our original Constitution, we had no authority to do these very onerous things that they have done. But under this system that we're striving for, you know what the tax system would be all like. We wouldn't have an income tax at all. And then also, we would not have the most deceitful, dishonest, regressive tax, and that's the tax of inflation. And in order to get rid of that, you get rid of the Federal Reserve System. They still haven't heard you in Washington, D.C.